We're here as part of ThawFest, which is part of the Hamptons Art Network and the way that we're celebrating all the wonderful arts institutions that are out here.
So what does Thaw stand for again?
It stands for the Hamptons Arts Weekend, although it's a month long now.
Right.
And last year was the last program we did in person right before the pandemic hit. We did the screening of Silkwood at Guildhall, who's a long-term partner of ours for that. And that was great. And now this is the world we're in. So we all hope everybody enjoyed watching the producers at home, and now we're here to talk about it a little bit.
Well, I must say that to me, maybe this dates me, but all these crazy comedies that are clever, and if they're really clever, like Mad World.
Mm-hmm.
I love Mad World. And other of Brooks's films like Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles and things like that. I've always just, I'm not like I can watch them every month, but I still find them funny now. And this, of course, is to me the best. I saw the play, the musical. I went to opening night on Broadway, where I've rarely seen people laugh that much in my life. I mean, genuinely laugh, not polite laugh. Probably the two biggest laughs I've ever seen in my life, truly, were when I went to an HBO screening at Time Warner. The old setup they had there, to go see the Borat movie, the first Borat movie. And I'm talking about the biggest names in show business, who were a lot of them very, very, essential to American comedy, like Lorne and people like that. I mean, they were spitting their drinks out. They were laughing so hard. It was like they were convulsing. And the same with this, with the opening night of the musical with Nathan and Matthew, which is legendary. And we saw this show, and it was just not to be believed. Of course, it's tough to recast, two people who own these roles. I mean, Mostel was Mostel, and the whole idea of recasting people like that is Wilder is Wilder, and that's almost impossible. But they pulled it off with Matthew and Nathan. But the film, and you can speak to this, this was his first film. And up till then, what was he doing? Was he working in TV?
Well, he had done Get Smart, and he had done Show of Shows, and Sid Caesar, and a lot of TV. And he had this idea. He wrote the lyrics for Springtime for Hitler. He actually wanted to make this a novel, and he finally was able to sort of get it made. It was made for under $1 million. They didn't really have enough money. They didn't have a director attached. He said he would do it, also to save money, because he had it all in his head.
The budget was under $1 million.
I think it was about $940,000, something like that.
Low.
Something very, very low. And he did it. His first time directing, and his first screenplay went on to win Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, beating out 2001: A Space Odyssey.
We want to slow down when we say that. He won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay and beat out Stanley Kubrick in 2001.
He beat out 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Battle of Algiers, and John Cassavetes' Faces, another movie about people making productions, and a wonderful film itself. And he beat the three of them out and won the Oscar. Much to his surprise, didn't have a speech prepared. Gene Wilder was nominated for supporting actor, didn't win, but it was his first real film role. He had done, he had a tiny little part in Bonnie and Clyde, but this was really his first film role. And Gene Wilder is someone who I have an immense amount of respect for and grew up watching his films and love. And what do you love about Gene Wilder's performance in this film?
Well, I think Wilder, who went on to have different kind of personas in films, here he's the ultimate nebbish. He's such he's competent at accounting, or he wouldn't be offered the job as co-conspirator with him. But he's competent as an accountant, but as his persona, he's very nebbishy, as people can see in spades, with his blanket and everything, and his, don't pay on me and all that stuff. Gotta watch the film, folks. Or they were assuming they've already watched it.
I hope they have.
If you have watched it, then all those scenes with Zero Mostel. But and then in other shows, he's more commanding, and he's more of a straight leading man. Young Frank, immediately with it's a comedy in Young Frankenstein and so forth. And he was very versatile in that thing that's very appealing to me, which is your personality and your demeanor inside of a role. Some people can play very weak people, and you can play people who are very capable and very confident. And it's hard, I think, for some people to play both, and to play kind of pathetic. at Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now and you look at Robert Duvall as Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird, you can't believe it's the same person. I mean, that's great acting. And I always use the Duvall and Mockingbird example because he doesn't say one word in the film and he kills you. One of the greatest performances you've ever seen. And minimal, but powerful. And I love Gene Wilder for that he was versatile that way. And Mostel, I want to say this and I want to ask you about him. You know, this is a guy who, you grew up with a certain feeling for him. You grew up thinking him, this was what year?
1967.
67, I can't believe 2001 was back then. Mostel was someone who, you know, my God, I thought he was like 75 when he did this. He died when he was my age. I'm 62. And you think of Zero Mostel as being this kind of flabby, you know, bagel on cream cheese on my necktie kind of New Yorker, you know what I mean? Not the fittest guy in the world.
Not the fittest guy.
He seemed like he was a mess physically, but he was 62 when he died.
And he had a terrible bus accident, you know,
that.
before the production of this film, where he was hit by the M86, the crosstown bus on the Upper West Side, and wrecked his leg. And they thought they might have to amputate his leg. His other option was to hope that he didn't get gangrene and could keep his leg. And he spent months in the hospital. And ever since afterwards, you know, he had a lot of problems with his legs. He never was shooting past 5 or 5:30. I think there's one time in the production of this film, the Lincoln Center scenes, where it was already too late and he didn't want to do it. It was part of his contract, but they still ended up doing it. And I love the Lincoln Center stuff and all the stuff they shot in New York City. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, he had terrible pain in his leg for sort of the last chunk of his career as a result of this accident, which I think he won a lawsuit from the city for having been hit by this bus. But
he made more money getting hit by a bus than he did as an actor. That's kind of a shame.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, I wonder, how was this movie reviewed critically when it came out?
Well, it got a bad New York Times review. It opened in Pittsburgh on one theater, one screen. And Mel Brooks went, and one of the producers went with him. Why? I think they weren't sure what to do with it. I mean, originally they wanted to call it Springtime for Hitler. Then they were told, no, how about we make it Springtime for Mussolini? And then they settled on, yeah, I know. The producer, I think Joseph Levine, who was the one that insisted we could only do it if we called the producers. They switched the name to the producers. They opened it on one theater, I think Embassy Pictures, I think was the distributor at the time, in Pittsburgh. Mel Brooks went with the producer. There was like nobody else there. It did really, really poorly. It got a bad New York Times review by, I think, Renata Adler. And then Peter Sellers saw a private screening of it. He was Peter Sellers, who was also supposed to play Bloom in the film, but kind of never showed up, but had told Mel Brooks he wanted it. Peter Sellers saw it, and he loved it, and he took out a full-page ad in Variety telling people that it's the funniest film and they all need to see it. And that caught on, and then it opened in New York on the Upper East Side, and then it went on to play for a long, long time and did really well. But initially, sort of mixed reviews, and the New York Times review they thought would be a killer. But Peter Sellers really helped resurrect this film and get it some attention. And then, of course, 2 Academy Award nominations and an Academy Award win.
The guy that did the music, who did a lot of Mel's movies, what was his name again?
I just blanked on it. I think it's not John Thompson. God, I just blanked.
You keep talking while I have it right here. See, when we do these programs, we're not going to cut this because we're too real for that. We're too real for that. It's,
God, I did just blank on his name.
John
Marshall.
John Morris.
John Morris,
who did a lot of his films and also did like very serious films like like Elephant Man.
Yep.
And Ironweed.
Which I don't think everybody knows. Mel Brooks produced the Elephant Man, but he did. Yeah, he did. So as I say, Brooks had already written the lyrics for Springtime for Hitler, and John Morris did the music. And that sequence in the film is just, I have to say, so extraordinary. John Morris worked with him for just about every one of his films except for 2, Robin Hood, Men in Tights, and whatever the Dracula one was, whose name escapes me. But otherwise, he did all of it, and Mel Brooks swore by him, and I think he's really, really talented.
Well, you know, Mostel, who I've heard all this mythology about, he used to talk to the audience when he was on Broadway. I don't know if that's true, but they told me he'd be on stage doing Ionesco or something. He'd look into the house and look at someone and say, "How are the Yankees doing?" And there was a ball game on that night. And I mean, I don't think that's true, but it sounds like it could be true. But you know, there's very few performers who you give them the role of that larger-than-life person. And Nicholson did a bit of that. but Nicholson wasn't Mostel, but Nicholson could kind of blow himself up to do things like The Joker and things like that in movies. You have to you have to get a little grand guignol there, but but there was just no one like Mostel for playing that nutty, unhinged, but lovable. You know, they used to call that, there was that old word, madcap, that madcap character where he could play this part. You see this guy in this part and you say to me he wasn't feeling well. I think to myself, what a performance would he have given if he was feeling fine? Because he's so over the top and he's so crazy. And all of his line readings have that drive to them. This is a guy who used to say in the theater and even in films, but films less so because they're editing. We used to say, you give the scene the stick to the end of the race, like a horse racing analogy. You got to take out all the unearned pauses and drive it. And I've never seen anybody drive scenes in my life like Mostel. He's gonna bite the lens off with his teeth in the middle of the scene. He's so wild, you know, but so funny. I mean, there's so many moments in this movie that are unbelievable. We were watching just now, just to get us in the zone, I guess. Lee Meredith, who played Ula, who was saying, "Go to work, Ula." And she's doing her famous dance, Ula. And you know, Brooks was somebody who was as in sync with the times and in sync with what was, you know, allowable then. He was as raunchy and kind of bawdy as you could be. And you know, he went right up to that edge. You see this woman like shaking all of her extremities at the camera. And and you just think to yourself, no one would do that now. You know, no one would do that now.
Well, who comes the closest now?
That's interesting. Who comes the closest now in terms of? I would say Sacha Baron Cohen is probably like Mel. You know, maybe Mel is the grandfather to Sacha Baron Cohen. Where I mean, everything you see in. I mean, the thing you're just telling me this, and I'm recalling things like him wrestling the big heavyset sidekick of his, and the guy sits on his face in the hotel room. I mean, what's more horrific than that? I mean, that's one of the funniest and most ghastly scenes I've ever seen in a movie in my life. You know, and the things he says too, in terms of bawdiness. He says he says, my sister say to my brother, you know, get this, you know, get this, and then he'd break out and he get this, and you know, it's like, you know, I mean, again, right up to the edge, you're going to get arrested, you know what I mean? But I think Sacha Baron Cohen is supposed to come to that now.
What do you think about some of the supporting characters and producers? Because I mean, they're I think really Kenneth Mars and Dick Shawn and. What do you think? I mean, I think they...
Well, speak about Mad Mad World. I mean, Dick Shawn is in Mad Mad World, and he plays... I'm blanking on the actress who's her son, the great Merman. He plays Merman's son. And we used to steal that line in my house from Mad Mad World, where he was talking to everybody around the road. He goes, did you all hear what Mama said? He's like protecting his mother and defending his mother. And I would say that to my brothers when we were kids. I turned to them and I go, did you all hear what Mama said? And do my Dick Shawn, I flash my Dick Shawn impersonation. But Dick Shawn, who was just breathtaking and most of everything he did. And then, but Kenneth Mars, who I was showing you before, he had that wonderful bit as the rabbi in Radio Days, where he and the mother and the father are all clocking the kid because he stole the money meant for Israel to buy his Masked Avenger ring. That scene alone is like one of the greatest scenes in movies with Kenneth. But Kenneth Mars was one of the great comedy actors in history, and it underlines the point, because I was reading this Mike Nichols book by Mark Harris, but Nichols was telling during the rehearsals of Barefoot in the Park with Liz Ashley and Redford, and he was saying to them, you know, just play it straight, play it real. You know, he goes, we're not going to do the old boulevard comedies where you're nose to nose and screaming at each other and throwing things. It's very loud and brassy. He said, we're going to play it real. You're going to have an activity, you're going to have an activity on the other side of the room, and you're going to be talking to each other and yelling, but while you're doing something, you don't stop what you're doing. You just holler at each other. And play it real. And you see that Kenneth Mars was a great actor because he played it real. He played it like, I mean, the character was an outrageous character, but he played the stakes of what the character wanted. And then the other one was the guy that plays Roger DeVries. I'll have to look it up. You tell the folks what's another thing you liked about the movie while I look this up.
I mean, well, as I say, the supporting characters, and Kenneth Mars, I think, does such a great job. His role was actually supposed to be Dustin Hoffman, who was cast in the film and ready to go, and then Mel Brooks let him go try out for The Graduate, thinking he had zero chances of getting the role in The Graduate. And next thing you know, he's cast in The Graduate, and last minute they replaced him with Kenneth Mars. But I think, as funny as Dustin Hoffman would have been, it's perfect to have
Christopher Hewitt played Roger DeVries, and his assistant
Carmen Gia
was Andreas Voutsinas. But Christopher Hewitt was Roger DeVries. Yeah, I mean, they were. I mean, any film to find the right actors. I mean, it must be painful when you want to make the film and you can't get the right actors because you just have to have it just so. I have to have people that can handle the delicacy of these kind of weird, kooky characters. You know, it's like Rosemary's Baby. I always remember Rosemary's Baby, where you could have my mind is dry.
John Cassavetes.
No, but the next door neighbors.
The old woman. And
who was in.
I know the one who's in Harold and Maude.
Yes.
I'm blanking on her name.
But you could have the listeners. We're really outing ourselves in front of your group here. We know the answer to. Let me look this up. I love how real this is. This is so real. But what I'm saying is that she plays. Here we go. Ruth Gordon. So I knew it before I looked it up. Ruth Gordon is the next door neighbor with Sidney Blackmer plays her husband. He plays Roman Castevet, and she plays Minnie Castevet. And you can't have it if both of them are kooky. I mean, it's going to be too much. Like Polanski was a genius. I mean, see a film like genius in that kind of the palette. You know, I mean, you could have the one woman. It's made of vitamins. It's made of vitamins for all. Take it. It's vitamins. It's made of fresh herbs in my own kitchen. You can have somebody who's really brassy and loud and crazy. And then Sidney Blackmer was like, I enjoyed you very much that play, guy. What was that thing? There was a thing you did, a gesture. Yeah, the thing I did with my hand. I went to, yes, it was a very wonderful gesture. You know, I mean, the two of them smoking in the parlor. You see him, and they're in the other room, and they're closing the deal. And they're smoking, having a cigarette. But then they come in the middle, like, oh, well, yes. And Sidney Blackmer, and Morris Evans. I mean, all these really dignified, classy actors who are great actors. And you bring them in, then you have a little nuttiness. I mean, put a little fruitcake on the table for the spread. But Alicia Cook Jr., a wonderful lady. The guy that's showing them the apartment, he's not nutty, but there's something about him. You know what I mean? The girl that dies, the neighbor that jumps out the window and kills herself. Sexy, young, beautiful girl, dies so young in life. Ralph Bellamy playing the doctor. The other doctor. Oh God.
We're doing the producers, right? Maybe you're getting ahead of yourself to the next episode. But
so the producers, just that idea of that whole tableau, you've got to have people who can fill those roles. And, whether it's Christopher Hewitt or Kenneth Mars or Dick Shawn or whatever, you have to, or Lee Meredith. I mean, playing that, sexy girl, you got to play it. You got to play it. She can't have a nerve in her body.
Yeah.
She's going to be like, I know what you want, and guess what? I'm going to give it to you. You know what I mean? It's like she can make it fun. No guilt, no shame. That's what makes it comedy. And you got to nail it. You got to nail it. Now the thing that intrigues me is that the guy that was the DP on this movie, the director of photography, he didn't make that many movies. He only made 4 movies.
Oh, really?
And I wonder why this movie didn't launch him into more movies, because this is actually it's not a well photographed movie, because there's a lot of. I mean, I wonder if he was hamstrung. I wonder if he was limited or dictated to by Mostel. Like, I wonder if he was working with somebody that was like Gleason. The rumors about Gleason were that when they would come on and shoot The Honeymooners, there were two shots and a single. And the single was just for Gleason, because he wouldn't rehearse. And when he would come in, it was like you had to have a single to just follow him that you would then cut to. And because Gleason, this is the rumor I heard, he wouldn't rehearse. So he forced them to put a single on him that you could always cut away to depending on what he does. If you want to walk across the room and go to the sink or whatever. And I wonder if Mostel was Gleason-esque in that matter, that they weren't prepared for how to shoot this flipping thing, because it's some of the scenes, like when he's dancing, Rio by the seal, all that kind of stuff. You wonder. It looks like it was the whole thing was improvised, including the cinematography.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess cinematography is not the film's strongest suit.
No, but you don't notice that.
You don't notice that.
The actors are so good. Now, which of his other films, Brooks, did you enjoy the most? Are you a big fan of Young Frankenstein?
I am. I mean, I am. I love those. Those all came out when I was really young. I mean, Spaceballs was the one that came out at I was 13, 14 years old when that came out, and of course I'd seen all of the Star Wars movies and all of this kind of stuff. So Spaceballs was right up my alley. My brother was a big fan of a lot of the Mel Brooks, as was my grandfather and stuff, so we would watch them, and I remember watching High Anxiety and Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein and loving all those too. But yeah, I mean, Spaceballs for me was the right movie at the right time. What about you?
I think Young Frankenstein was my favorite. I mean, I really thought that was, because I just love Terry Garr. Again, you have to have the right, I mean, Terry Garr was somebody who, you just fell in love with her. You just fell madly in love with her when you saw her. Not because she was a beautiful woman, but she was just she just had such a wonderful quality, you know. Lisa Kudrow reminds me somewhat of Terry Garr. There's a kind of a visitor from another planet quality, and then they're kind of a little bit a distance from or above whatever they're doing. And they kind of have a beat of like, what? whenever you say, they're like, what? And I don't want to say kooky, because that's not right, that's not complete. But I love Lisa Kudrow. I think Lisa Kudrow is one of the greatest comedic actresses of the last 50 years. And I love Terry Garr. I thought she was really wonderful. And of course,
Madeline Kahn.
Oh my God, Madeline Kahn.
Yep.
Peter Boyle. I mean, again, these actors that Madeline Kahn is the Zero Mostel in that movie.
Yeah.
You just have to blow herself up and to play that part. And then the character who plays Igor is the English actor who plays Igor, Marty.
We need somebody whispering these things into our ear sometimes.
No, come on, Marty. Marty. Here we go. Keep talking.
Keep talking.
What movies are we going to do next, by the way?
I don't know. I mean, my hope is that we're doing them in person next. But who knows? We've got Marty Feldman, yes. Marty
Feldman. Put the candle back. One of my favorite scenes in movie history. But I think we should do. What should we do next? Do we know?
I don't know.
Should we announce it on the show? Or decide now?
Well,
let's show them the process that we employ.
Yeah.
Inside the nerve center of the film festival.
Yeah. I don't know what we should do next. As I say, I mean, well, we're going to do our summer documentary series this summer.
Do we have another one of these coming or no?
We don't have another one of these, although we could
do another one now.
I mean, well, hopefully we could do another one.
Why are you toying with me?
We could do another one of these. We absolutely could.
When?
I don't know.
2 weeks?
Sure.
Sometime in early May, late April, early May?
We could do that.
Right, so this is airing when?
This is, I think, on March 25th.
Okay, you think? You don't know.
Pretty sure it's
You're
March
the artistic
25th.
director of the film, but you have no idea when it's on. It's okay. I know you're busy. I know it's the COVID. Blame the COVID and everything.
It's March 25th, I'm pretty sure. Yes.
Right.
It's just, when things aren't taking place it's going up on the internet on March 25th. I'm not scheduled to be in a
Let's think of
auditorium on March 25th.
What kind of movie you want to do. What kind of movie?
I don't know. Part of me is thinking now we should have done this comedy once we were actually in a room with 350 people watching this comedy. I'm missing, I've watched the film twice in the last couple of weeks, and God, we did The Shining and Silkwood recently, and Silkwood actually has some funny moments, but a comedy it is not. And
do we want to do another comedy?
It would be fun to do a comedy once we're in person. We've done a lot of serious films.
We're doing one more remote one?
We can do one more remote one.
So what should we do?
I don't know.
You're going out of your way not to answer that.
Sounds like you're ready to do
just like you said to me, like, we are talking about the producer, but we are going to pick a date.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I wanted to do I wanted to do The Heartbreak Kid. That's what we were set.
Couldn't get it.
We couldn't get it. I mean, it's really hard to see. I mean, that's one we would scheduled to do right after Silkwood. I mean, that was what we were lined up to do, and I would love to be able to do that. we got to find ones that are available and we can do a certain way. But
I'm glad it's decided, and that was an easy decision. It's Rosemary's Baby, everybody. Coming next from the Hamptons, what is this program called? Thaw?
The Thaw Fest for part of the Hamptons Art Network. And here we are, representing Hamptons Film.
I say Rosemary's Baby. Can't go wrong with Rosemary's Baby.
Can't go wrong with
Can't go
Rosemary's
wrong
Baby.
with Rosemary's
Pretty great
Baby.
movie.
Classic film.
Indeed. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our discussion of the producers, and we'll see you next time when we might be doing Rosemary's Baby.